WWE 2K25 just came out on the Nintendo Switch 2 about a week ago, and I've spent a lot of time with this game already. I played a bunch of different match types, a story mode, and I even created a few wrestlers. I even did the unmentionable and bought the Supercharger DLC pack because it was gonna take way too long to buy all those purchasables. There's a lot to love about this game, but there's also some negatives, and I'm gonna get into all of it. So, after 35 hours on this game, I think I'm ready to give you guys my thoughts on WWE 2K25 for the Nintendo Switch 2. Is this game worth $70 or should you wait for WWE 2K26? The like button is feeling kinda lonely, so do me a solid and hit that real quick. So let's just get right into it. So talking about the visual aspect, if you saw one of my last videos on this game, then you already know that this game is a solid port job by the 2K team and bringing this to the Switch 2. It looks pretty much no different from the other consoles. As you can see in these comparisons, the Nintendo Switch 2 is a huge upgrade from what we had on the original Switch. But a game is not all about visual. Gameplay is actually pretty important in a video game, if you can believe it or not. And boy, does this game have a lot of different match options, and then each match option has its own set of options. So here we got an Elimination Chamber match running on the Nintendo Switch 2. It starts off with two wrestlers in the ring at once, and after a little while, a 10-second timer starts counting down, and when it gets to 0, the next wrestler comes out of one of the pods at each corner of the ring. It makes for a super intense experience, but best of all, it performs perfectly. This game runs at a very solid and consistent 60 frames per second, even when there's up to 8 wrestlers in the ring at once. This was the thing that a lot of people were wondering about, was how was the Switch 2 going to be able to handle multiple man matches, because the original Switch notoriously had a lot of trouble with WWE 2K18 whenever there were any more than 2 wrestlers in the ring at once. But the Switch 2 seems to be able to handle up to 8 wrestlers in the ring at once with no problem whatsoever. It doesn't even break a sweat. I do need to mention, however, that there is a drop to 30 frames whenever the game cuts to a cinematic camera during a match, but that doesn't affect gameplay anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about the creation mode. There are so many things that you can create in this game, which might actually come as a shock to you if you haven't played a WWE 2K game since 2K18 on the OG Switch like I have. Obviously, you can create characters, but you can also create title belts, entire movesets for your characters, and even arenas and a bunch of other things. Here's a quick look at the creation suite in the Switch 2 edition with my character Casca. There are so many things that you can alter that it's actually kind of overwhelming at first. However, WWE 2K25 does seem to be missing a feature that was present in older games, and that's the ability to use sliders to adjust the shape of specific body parts. Like for example, if I wanted to make Casca's hips a little bit wider, or other areas if you catch my drift, I can't do that for some reason, but I seem to remember being able to do that in the older WWE games. Maybe I'm thinking of SmackDown vs. Raw way back in the day. I haven't checked out the arena creator myself, but I have gone over to the community creations tab and checked out a lot of your creations. I thought some of them were so good that I even downloaded them. You probably saw some of them in that 8-man tag footage earlier. I got a Super Mario, a Lady Deadpool, and a few others. A few days ago when I uploaded my overview video for this game, I showed you the day 1 community creations, and there was only like 5 characters uploaded to the server. If we check it out right now though, we got like 42 pages worth of community created wrestlers. That's a big change. Here we can see what the classic SmackDown arena looks like that someone created and uploaded to the server. The ring and the construct in the back all look super accurate to what it actually looked like, although there does seem to be an issue with some of my downloaded arenas. I don't know if this is a problem specific to the Switch 2 edition or if it's also present in the other versions, but the thing is, I've downloaded like 6 different arenas, but for some reason only 2 of them show up when I go to pick out an arena for a match. Maybe there's just something that I'm missing. Another thing regarding the community creations on the Nintendo Switch 2 edition is that for whatever reason, 2K decided that the Switch 2 version was not gonna share community creations with the other versions of this game. There's also no way to upload custom images for the Switch 2. I'd never known about this feature before, so it's totally new to me. But I looked it up, and apparently the way that it works is you go to WWE 2K.com/upload, and from that page you can upload your own created images from your laptop or phone or whatever you're using. Then you can boot the game and check out your custom images in-game. So if that's how it works, then I really don't see why, from a technical perspective, why it wasn't included in the game on the Switch 2 from day one. It doesn't seem like the sort of thing that would be all that complicated, but what do I know? I'm not a developer, so maybe there's something that I'm not taking into consideration. A lot of people are making a big deal about this, but honestly, while I would like the feature just because it would be a really cool thing to have, to me, it really doesn't matter all that much. Like, it's just custom images, but hopefully it does get added in soon for the people that want it. When it comes to single player content, this game is actually chock full of content. There seems to be several different campaign modes you can sink your time into. There's My Rise, Showcase Mode, My GM, and Universe Mode. Let's check out My Rise first. In My Rise, you have to create at least 2 custom characters. One has to be a male and the other a female, and each will go through their own divisions and their stories will intertwine. So you'll be playing between the 2 of them, and you'll even play with some actual wrestlers from the main roster. As you make progress through the story, you're gonna get points which you can use to upgrade your wrestlers' attributes. The wrestlers are all fully voice acted in My Rise, which is a really cool touch. Everything loads super fast, which if you're coming from the original Nintendo Switch, that's gonna be a really big thing. In WWE 2K18, matches took over a minute to load. In this game, it's about 5 seconds or less, which also takes into consideration how much more advanced this game is than 2K18. Showcase Mode takes you through various classic matches with a heavy focus on the Samoan history of WWE. The entire Showcase Mode, or at least the ones that I've played so far, are all about the Samoan wrestlers like The Rock, Rikishi, Roman Reigns, etc. You're not just playing the matches though, you're gonna have prompts throughout the match that give you various goals that you need to meet if you want to unlock everything. For example, one of the prompts might be that you need to Irish whip an opponent into a corner and do a specific move or moves in under 30 seconds, because that's how it was done in the real life version of that match. I'm not the biggest fan of this approach, to be honest, but that's just my own personal preference. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this mode though. Now let's check out what I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about, and that's how do online matches run in WWE 2K25 for the Nintendo Switch 2. Now personally, for me, wrestling games ever since I was a kid, they've always been primarily single player experiences, but I decided to try to check out the online matchmaking in this game, and honestly, it's a bit hit or miss for me. It looks like the only way to get into a match is to create a lobby or search for an already created lobby. I couldn't find any lobbies in the time that I was trying to, so I ended up making my own, and it took about 10 minutes of waiting, but I finally ended up finding a player who found his way to my lobby. As you can see here, it was someone who had Shaq, the basketball player. Shaquille O'Neal is a heavy body wrestler in this game, so anytime that I tried to grapple him, I couldn't do anything and he would just push me off. I don't know why that's active in online mode. You know, it seems like a supremely broken feature for a competitive online game, but that's neither here nor there. The online experience itself, it felt fine to me. The last time I played a WWE game online was 2K18 on the OG Switch. That was like 7 years ago, and it was super laggy back then. 2K25 on the Switch 2 did not feel laggy, but unfortunately, because I couldn't really do anything against this opponent and it takes way too long to find other opponents, I couldn't get a better feel for how the input lag is. But for the few instances where I was able to do something, the netcode felt perfectly fine. When I would attack or run, it didn't feel like there was a delay, but there were a few times where I missed reversals that I think I should have gotten. But it that could just be me being salty and just blaming the netcode. It's gonna take a few more matches to really come to a conclusion, but that's gonna have to wait, probably for another video. Also, if you've had more luck playing this game online, let everybody know down in the comments what your experience was like. Did you experience a lot of lag, or was it smooth? So in conclusion, WWE 2K25 for the Nintendo Switch 2 is pretty much a flawless port. Pretty much everything is in this game, minus the image uploader. It runs at a solid 60 frames per second in matches. The graphics are better than on PlayStation 4 and almost on par with the PlayStation 5. In fact, in a lot of comparisons, you're not even going to be able to tell any difference between Switch 2 and the PS5. There's tons of single player content, tons of customization options, even without the image uploader, which might be added in at a later date. Maybe. The online is pretty barren, but if you're like me, then this is pretty much a single player game anyway, with the exception of community creations, which I do enjoy. That's gonna be it for this video. I'm gonna go and finish up my Rise and Showcase. I would have gone to the island, but it turns out that you have to create another character from scratch, and you can't just import an already made created wrestler for some reason. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but because of that, I'm gonna have to make time for that at a later date, and I'll have a video focused just on the island for you guys later. I'm SwitchPlayed, done.